Aloha. Good morning, viewers. It's another beautiful day here in Hawaii. I'm enjoying myself. For those of you who enjoy it when I talk about investing, you're in luck. Because today's video is going to be more discussion on investing. Yes, today's my birthday, and so I had friends, local farmers, drop by yesterday and leave me some presents from their crops over here. And we were sitting around and talking over on the porch afterwards, and so we started talking about commercial space flight because, as you know, Richard Branson just did another one of his feats and survived going up and down in his own rocket plane there with his crew outside the atmosphere and had a look at the Earth. It, I guess, would be the first step in what I would call space tourism. That's really what Branson's after there with all of this. Anyway, so we started talking about it, and I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, space flight, commercial space flight is hot. I mean, that's a place to go. There's always a lot of potential for risk when you're investing in it, because Branson could have gone up and he could have burned the darn thing up and pulled the space shuttle disaster coming back down through the atmosphere. And so I would suspect the stock would have sunk considerably overnight if that had happened. As it is, it still went down about 17 or 18%. Most of that was on Branson's release of a statement when he came down. He was so excited how he was going to offer out so many million more shares of the company available. Well, of course, when you do that, it liquidates the value, and so some people who were invested got upset and started selling the stock off, which was, probably not the smartest thing to do, but whatever. They didn't like the idea that he was going to sell more shares, even though he succeeded. So in the discussion, one of the farmers I was talking to, he started having this angst about, investing, and, what are your legal situations in this and so on, and, and I'm going, oh, man, everybody's got basically the same contract, the federal Trade Commission, FTC, they're the ones that pretty much regulate how stocks are bought and sold, what can you do and not do, and so on and so forth. And so, being too concerned about the rules around it isn't necessary, because we're all in the same bag pretty much together when it comes to that. He was worried about an escape clause or something. I don't really know what he was concerned on, but frankly, because I assured him the last time I needed money out of my account, I just sold a bundle of Amazon shares by clicking a mouse, and and the money was transferred into my account, and there it was. It's not very complicated. I realized that both of the guys who were over yesterday have never invested in their lives, yet they work for a living. They're farmers, and so they get crops, and they put these things out in the field every year on a gamble. It's a farmer investing in his crop, putting seed in the field, or a gardener, whichever, it doesn't matter. Even though I got my feet planted firmly on the earth over here as the green garden guy, my head is somewhere out in outer space half the time. So I've owned Branson's company, ever since it first went IPO. I think it was maybe November 2019. He introduced it to the market, and I bought into it. And without looking this morning, I think at last glance I was about 366% on my investment that I'd made. And so it was a pretty good investment. I've been making fair money on it. Intend to make quite a bit more. But, I found it difficult to understand the perspective of these guys. I think part of it is, lack of education on it. I guess you need to have somebody who can help guide you into this kind of investment strategy. Because most of us work for a living our whole lives. We slave away at something, and whether we're entrepreneurs or we work for somebody else, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. We're all, in a sense, chained to our jobs. If what you do for a living pleases you and you really get a lot out of it, you're a lucky person, because you can probably go on doing it for a long time without it feeling too much like work. On the other hand, I know personally I have had some jobs that I would wish I did not have to do, but we all need money when we need it, and so I've done things that I didn't want to do for a living. Didn't like it either, not at all. So the rich, in general, the rich don't work for a living. Working for a living is a middle class thing in this country. It's bourgeois. We believe in Christian work ethics and all this, and how being productive and so on within the society. It's a little bit of propaganda, frankly, because the guys in this country who really make the money, work for it, friends. They invest for it. They usually invest in other people's ideas, and most of the time they make money off of other people's money. Okay, that's the profile. That's pretty much how it works. And in the meantime, the middle class are mostly frightened to death of investing, don't know much of anything about it, and so they just continue working for a living and hand to mouth, spending their money to get food, and having to go back to work again, and end up on this treadmill that so many of us are stuck in. So, we started to discuss this, and I realized that, here you got these guys, you got fertile soil in the field, and in season, they're taking their seed. The seed is an investment for the future. They're placing the seed into the fertile soil, and they're hoping for it to spring up, grow, and produce. So here now you have a matrix for investment. You have the investment itself, which is the seed. You have the risk and the hope for the future, that if it was a corn seed, that it's going to yield a crop of corn and you're going to be able to feed the cows or whatever you're going to do with this stuff, see? And similar again to the idea of investing when you're planting is that only foolish gardeners really, or farmers, would hedge all their bets on one crop. Diversification, especially in the vegetable garden at home, is very, very important. You put your tomatoes in, but then you put in some cabbages and some carrots, and you put in some beans, and maybe you put in some corn or a watermelon or something on this order. And so you've got all these different crops. Well, maybe a pest or a disease hit the tomato crop and really ruined it. That 2021, no tomatoes this year. Just disaster. But yet, whatever it was that hit the tomato didn't hit the carrots, didn't hit the beans, and so on. And so diversification, even though part of the garden was just an absolute waste, you still have the rest of it. It's, the diversified crop, not putting all your eggs in one basket, will get you through. If the farmer is producing, both corn and soybeans, maybe the soybeans were a bumper crop that year, where the corn maybe was a washout, and so maybe they managed to balance it out and, and break even at least, or maybe still make a little money, or lose less, however it comes out. But the nature of what we do in the farm and in the garden, with the risks we take, with how the weather can be unpredictable, how we know how to put that investment, that seed, into a situation that's going, hopefully, where it's going to prosper and we will benefit from it. So there's a certain amount of knowledge, and what we're doing there is forethought and so on. This is so identical to how people actually invest in companies and on stocks. It's almost exactly the same. That's why I really have a difficult time when I'm speaking with gardeners about investing and farmers about investing who are scared of it, is that they do it all the time. They do the same thing, all the time, yet they're not realizing that when it's a seed, they're not feeling the risk, I guess. But when it's a dollar bill, oh man, look out. That's sacred. The almighty dollar. That's kind of how that is. Well, money is abstract. Seed is actually very real and is usually extremely predictable. That's the nice part about it. But dollar bill is an abstract commodity that doesn't really have any particular value per se. A tomato seed's going to grow a tomato. And maybe even exactly what kind of tomato it's going to do. With a dollar bill, you don't know whether it's worth 99 cents today, $1.50, or whatever. Right now, we're all experiencing this inflation in the economy that's mostly generated by scarcity. The COVID thing threw everything out of whack. And so you got, they don't have enough chips to make enough cars, and the used car or the rental car people sold off all their rental cars, and now there's no chips and blah blah. And so those who want theirs are going to jack the price up to get what they need, and other opportunistic companies will also say, hey, I can make more money on this. Ellen bought a jar of mustard the other day. I won't mention the name of the company, but the jar of mustard is missing 2 ounces from the last jar of mustard by the same company, same type that she bought. What's happening is with some of the companies are increasing the price. Instead, they're shrinking the package. So it's the same thing. So how do you deal with this? Money's abstract, folks. It doesn't really have any particular value. That value is going to change from one day to another, and because of that, getting too passionate about its value and about its reality as a hard thing, substance in your life, is not really terribly smart, because just as soon, you take $100, you put it in the bank, you get inflation, and next thing you know is your $100 is only worth 84. Well, that didn't pay, really, for putting it in the bank. On the other hand, like that seed you put in the field, if you took that dollar bill and you invested that dollar bill in somebody's company, an idea on the marketplace, hopefully you've chosen relatively fertile soil, that your thoughts about this investment were, driven by wisdom and logic. It's a pretty good chance that you're going to win out, that you're going to get a crop of corn out of the dollar bill, that the dollar bill won't just be $1 at the end of the year. At the end of the year, the dollar bill might be $200. You don't know. It could be $1.50. It could be 83 cents. That happens too, but not as much. Most of the time, over a 10-year period, money put in the market, it grows. Okay. I currently do not have any companies in my portfolio that are worth less than I paid for them. Everything I have in the portfolio, which is, about 5 dozen different investments, because it's diversified. I get the carrots, the cabbage, is car companies, digital technology companies, whatever, it's a diversified situation. So if like oil's plunging, well, maybe digital technology's up, or if retail is down, well, maybe commercial space flight's up, who knows, and so it balances itself if you've done it right, see. And again, to just demonstrate how abstract this value is, because I'm used to this fluctuation, I look at it daily, I can open up my portfolio and I can see I made, $20,000 in the last 24 hours just by sitting in the chair doing nothing, all right? Well, that's nice. I like that. But, I open it up again the next day and I see, oh, my goodness, look at that. I lost $12,000 overnight. That's the way it is. And, well, it's all on paper or in your head until the day you cash your chips in. Of course, well, who's going to cash your chips in on the day you lost 12 grand, right? You're going to cash your chips in on the day you made 20,000. That's kind of how that works. But yeah, the investment into companies and ideas is pretty much exactly the same as investment into your crops. The only difference is that the crop seed yields you, food and materials of one sort or another. The dollar bill put into the stock market yields you more dollar bills. And it will help you keep up with inflation. As you see, the price of building materials has gone through the roof due to scarcity temporarily. Well, so has the value of a number of different companies on the market that have gone through incredible surges too. And so it keeps up. It helps to keep up. It's not always even, but that's the idea. And if you're comfortable with planting tomatoes in spring, and you're comfortable with putting an orange tree or an apple tree out in the field and, hoping for that investment to turn around into fruit, you're doing the same thing. And, one of the things I guess that messes people's head up on investing is they all think, oh man, well, Americans are into the big score. Most of us are. I know a lot of people that they keep thinking, oh, one of these days my ship will come in. I will win the lottery if I win the lottery, or maybe a rich uncle is going to pass away and leave me something, or whatever it is, or maybe one of these days I'm going to get an idea that actually pays off and I'm going to make some money out of this. We see this a lot. It's all about the big score. It's America. It's a gold rush. It's the oil boom. Right? Yeah. It's the housing market right now here. That's a big score. If you can find some other place to live as good as where you're living. It's not the best way to look at economy. It usually keeps you trapped into volunteer slavery, is what the big score will do to you, because most of us never make the big score. Very few of us ever do, really. But wealth can also be metered a dime at a time. That's kind of the way I operate in my economy, is that mechanisms that will drop steadily small amounts of money into my coffers, into my bank account, over long periods of time that really don't stop doing that. The trickle is steady. I've always referred to it as the gumball machine philosophy. I put gumball machines in the nursery in California, and a dime at a time, people buying candy that we got from Costco out of the machines. We made enough money every month. I could take the 17 employees out for pizza and beer for our meetings every month, just from 2 gumball machines. It was falling in a dime at a time. Now when you open up the gumball machine, you find enough money for pizza and beer for the month, you go, well, the first thing you got to do, right, is pull out enough money out of that to be able to buy more gumballs so you can keep the thing going. So you put that aside. But then you got the rest of this stuff here, which is most of it, actually. It's mostly profit. Well, then what are you going to do with it? Well, I highly recommend that at least a certain portion of it, maybe half of the profit, be used to invest in more gumball machines. I don't know, whatever you got in your mind, but to invest, to put that money in a place where it's going to produce more money. See, rather than just going out and paying your bills and saying, okay, we made it this month, we made it. That is very secular. You can't get out of it. You get trapped inside of it oftentimes when you don't invest. If you invest steadily along your life, you'll eventually hit a point where, if you've done it right, those investments are going to cover you. You're not going to need to work again. I do the nursery here. I do the seed sales. I grow the crops in the field. I don't do these things because I need to do this financially. I have no need for it. I shut all this down and I'm fine. I'm taken care of. But I do it just to stay happy, healthy, meet people. It's a social event. It's part of my media channel thing here. It's all kind of connected into a big, good package that I like. But I don't do it for the money. I make a lot of money on it, but I don't do it for the money. And so that money is actually, it's bonus again. And so it ends up getting thrown into more investments again. So, if you're working for an employer, there's automatic payroll deduction plans, chances are, from your paycheck best way to get some money put aside. And even if that deduction is just, say, 20% of your paycheck or something going into a bank account, that eventually you will take it out and invest it in something, that's all right. But when it goes directly into like an IRA or some investment package where that money is, monthly, weekly, flowing into some place where it's going to grow for you, that's the easiest way to do this. It's the way I got started with it. I didn't start by, I had a $30,000 chunk of change or something. I said, I'm going to go with the market and buy some stock. No. Started with $100. Okay. Yeah. $100 bill. And just gradually kept adding. I've stopped adding at this point. I'm retired, and so I don't pile investments anymore. The investments are in such a state of affairs that they basically are their own entity, and they just sit there and they just crank out cha-ching, 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 and they just sit there and make money. They're most likely, it's a pretty good chance what'll happen is that I'm going to pass away because I am getting older on top of that pile because I won't spend it all, and Ellen or my kids or someone is going to end up benefiting from it. And now, if they're real smart, they'll take it and they'll invest it. I don't know. Ever since 2008, the last time we had a serious market correction, because of some bad banking practices on mortgages mostly, and a lot of greedy people. The last time that things, corrected, since then, it's been pretty much steadily uphill. And so any money that you started to put in back around 2009 or so, you made money. You'd had to invest in something really dumb, okay, to not have made money. Everything I have in my portfolio that's been purchased since that time and before has made money, and some of it, 4,000% even in that period of time. Some of it, 200%. All right, it all varies. You never know. It's the 80-20 rule. 80% of what I invest in, doesn't match my hopeful expectations, but 20% is usually far exceeds what I really expected, and so it compensates. There you have it, folks. Take the seeds, stick them in the ground. Take that dollar bill and put it in the stock market. Do some investing. Yep. Free yourself from the treadmill. Aloha. Happy gardening, and even better investing.